Hello and welcome to another episode of the Classic Chloe Show, where we talk about music and its effects on every aspect of our daily lives. I'm your host, Chloe Castillo, and I have another fantastic guest for you today, Billboard charting singer and songwriter Mason Musso. Welcome to the show. Great to have you on, Mason.
Chloe, thanks so much for having me.
Of course, always great to chat with you. Mason's been putting up with my music discussions for a really long time since I started this a couple years ago, and I always appreciate his willingness to chat. So it's always great to have you, Mason. So let's just dive in here and give my audience a background on where you started in music, where your music journey began, and kind of where you are today.
I grew up in Rockwall, Texas, and my parents were in theater, um, and they really wanted to get us into I guess entertainment. Acting was kind of the main thing in the beginning. So it was really my younger brother Mitchell who was like the first one to get into the entertainment business. Um, and we started doing stuff around. He started booking stuff around Texas, and then we eventually came out to L.A. Um, he was cast on the Disney show Hannah Montana, and then from there, I started a band with Miley Cyrus's brother, who was Miley Cyrus is obviously on the show Hannah Montana too, and then from there, we started the band Metro Station, and that's how I got started in the music business, really.
That's awesome. So I
Mm.
know that I'm not super familiar with early 2000s pop music or rock or anything. I just am not. But I do know that your song "Shake It" was like huge, still is huge.
Yeah,
Actually, it was like blowing up on TikTok like a year ago or so. I remember.
yeah.
So clearly that band had an impact, and it was it was really something of its time. And I think it's really cool though to see where you've come from there. So just kind of. If you can give my audience kind of a little bit of an overview here about like what was Hollywood like during that time when you were there, and have you seen a lot of changes, or what do you observe as a musician now?
Uh, the cliches are true. I mean, it's definitely um, it's a tough, cutthroat um, business. Hollywood acts as like it's a machine. It doesn't, it's just there to you know make money. So it's I mean, people kind of get emotional about it, and in this city, Hollywood can destroy a lot of people. I've seen a lot of my friends, and a lot of people in general, try to make it here, and their dreams are crushed. I mean, I say all the time, um, we're only like 4 hours away from Vegas, and Vegas and Hollywood are very similar. Vegas wouldn't be there if people weren't losing all the time. People just losing money all the time. That's the only reason why Vegas exists, is because people are losing all the time. And same with Hollywood. I mean, as much as this city, um, you know, is your dreams can come true here. It also survives on a lot of people's dreams being crushed. Really, for every star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, there's hundreds of thousands of people that have came here and didn't make it. So
So it's a machine. Expand on that if you
yeah,
would.
it has no. It's just there to make money. I mean, people get this way about labels too, where oh, they should have my best interest at heart. Well, it's just it's a machine. It doesn't. It's you know what I mean. It doesn't work like that. But they'll take you into the boardrooms. They'll be like, "We're going to be your family. We're going to be your best friends," and um, they're not. So you can't. You can't. You know, you have to just be real about it. And that's okay. I mean, that's the way a lot of businesses are too. So
So
it's not the
Mason, what
case.
do you think about Child's? Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that one. I think that's pretty obvious for anyone who's been
Yeah,
watching at least the past decade or so.
yeah.
So what do you think about childhood stars or child stars rather in Hollywood? Because I'm sure you've witnessed a lot of that. What do you think about that? I mean, to me, it's insane. There's a lot of destruction. To me, I see a pattern happening again and again and again and again. What are your thoughts? Though I'm not in the industry myself, so what do you think?
It's tough. I also know a lot. I knew a lot of kids, young kids, who really wanted to be stars, and my brother. Absolutely wanted to. I mean, I got my success came when I was 18. I mean, uh, uh, to me, that's I was really young too. So it's a lot. I mean, unless you have a good structure around you, it can it can it can eat you up. Um, you have a lot of people wanting your time and attention. When you're young, it's hard to really know who's worthy of your attention, you know, and who you should surround yourself with. So yeah, on the childhood star thing, I again, I I think that's why there's so many stories of horrible situations with young kids, um, in Hollywood and in the entertainment business, because it's rough. It's a real, you know, um, it's ruthless. I mean, Hollywood is ruthless. Um, and if they were just I think that's the problem. If it was just more honest, um, about it, it'd probably be better for everybody.
Well, you see people like Justin Bieber right now, he's like the prime example because everyone knew him as a
Yeah.
kid. He was like the huge thing, he was like the guy. And
Yeah.
now, you see him, he looks like he's homeless and on like who knows what kind of drugs. I don't know if he is or not. I'm just saying he looks like his appearance looks like he's been absolutely destroyed as a person. And it's really sad, actually. And I know for me growing up, I was always I wouldn't say I was discouraged from pop, but I always saw it as kind of just like this trash and like I was always I didn't like it personally as a little kid. I didn't really see anything good out of it. And I remember though, and that was just me as a little kid kind of being afraid of like anything besides Mozart, you know what I mean? So
Sure.
that was
Sure.
just that wasn't even really my parents pushing on me. That was just me personally. I was just kind of like opposed to it. But and I have different opinions now, but one thing I always kind of had in my mind was artists like Justin Bieber, those like childhood or young artists. They seemed like such immature, kind of just like pushing all this trash kind of music, and all these girls were huge fans. It just seemed so stupid to me as a little kid, and in a way, it was all I always kind of had this negative view on artists like Justin Bieber, for example, like, oh, you're
Yeah.
good for nothing kind of thing, which is really kind of terrible. And honestly, who am I to judge? But that was just kind of the image I got, and I was like, I don't know, 10, and I had all these opinions about people, but still, it was like looking back though, what in the world have people like that gone through? You know what I mean? Like there's so much deeper than just oh. There's all this stardom and they're just stupid and they just want to have fancy cars. I mean, as kids, think about what you're offered in Hollywood. Think about what you're told you're going to be given. Think about, the fame and the fun and just the entertainment aspect of it. That's a lot for kids to handle, for adults to handle. For most adults can't handle that either. So imagine little kids who are swept into this and who then as young people, they don't really know much different, and so they're raised with this Hollywood atmosphere, and then they crank out music after song after song after song after song, and it's like you said, it's a brutal industry. And so you look back at them now and it's kind of like we've used them all up, and now they're just like shells of people out there, and it's sad honestly to see. And it makes me wonder, like, what is it about the industry itself that I guess, loses the connection to the people it started, if that makes sense. Like, what is
You
it
did.
that really takes those artists and just like, okay, we've run through you, and now you're out there to fend for yourself in a way.
You don't get a childhood. You don't get a normal childhood. You know, um, I feel like I was lucky enough to, like, up until the age of 17. I pretty much had a normal childhood. I mean, while most of my family was in Hollywood, helping out my little brother Mitchell and my littlest brother Mark, who did really well in the entertainment. Uh, he was on a couple movies and shows and stuff like that too. But I was usually home in Texas, so I pretty much had a childhood. So I would say, yeah, the lack of a normal childhood, and once the money dries up, um, you know, quickly the people who you thought were your friends they're not hanging around anymore. And for a young kid, all these people that you thought were your best friends and they always wanted to hang out with you and stuff. And I'm not saying this is happening, to Justin Bieber or anything, but obviously not. He's got tons of money. But I'm just saying in general, and you see it with all the young actor it's such a cliche. I mean, it's every single story. You know, once the money dries up and once you're not the superstar on the top of the charts, you know, all these people leave, and I think, um, and it can crush you. You know, you're just like all of a sudden this, you know, what you thought was reality and who you thought really had your back. You know, they were never really your friends to begin with. Um, you know, because they only became your friend really because they knew you as this superstar. You know, um, and yeah, I think again that's one of the things I think, you know, I'm lucky, um, because I already had before I had the time to grow up and be a kid and form, you know, those friendship bonds that, you know, it wasn't about my success or anything like that. It was just, you know, it was just because I was Mason, you know. So I'm very lucky in that respect.
Absolutely. You know, like with myself, I had a very normal childhood and I treasured my childhood. You know, it was a beautiful thing. And just comparing myself, you know, this little kid who was like, Justin Bieber is no good, you know, and then looking at my
Sure.
childhood versus his, I mean, think about the extreme, you know, difference there. I mean, I was growing up in somewhere like you in the middle of Texas, you know, on some acreage, and I had, you know, the horses in my backyard, and I played the piano as a kid, and it was like, you know,
Yeah.
the most fame that I ever had was just like, you know, the city officials like, hey, come play the piano for this event. And I just thought that was just fun just because it was. I like to play the piano, you know? But it was I kind of like, you know, I'm kind of at a loss for words here because thinking about what kids actually go through as musicians when they have that true talent and they're told all this potential that they absolutely do have. And they're amazing artists too. And it's sad also to me to see so much talent being just like squeezed out and then just dropped without any like real I guess care for the actual individual person. So anyway, it's a very interesting topic though. It's crazy to see. Like you said, it is a money industry. It's a money driven industry. There's not much more to it, honestly. I don't believe. So let's kind of get on a happier note here, Mason, and talk about some of your
I will say this. I know he goes the church and the pastor he I think he surrounded himself with. I've been to that church and I've met that pastor before, and to me he seems like a really good pastor. So,
good. That's
you
good.
know,
Yeah.
so
Well, you know, I
hopefully he
will
has
say
some good people around him.
yeah, well, I will say also I've noticed as well some of his later career, and to me he looks like he's been through hell just looking at the guy. But I will say he's written a lot of music and has said a lot of things. Mostly said a lot of things in interviews and such that you know really acknowledge the need for God, the need for his
Yeah.
faith, and realizing that is so much more important than any of the fame he ever had. I think that's a really amazing testimony. No matter what he's been through, he's still hanging on to that and still recognizing that. I think is really, really something to be, you know, applauded, honestly.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's just change topics a little bit here. We're going to run a couple ads and then we're going to talk about your music, Mason, because I want to hear about your band, Social Order, and I want to hear about your new song with Turning Point Ambassador Anthony Watson. I know y'all have that coming out soon. Let's do a couple ads and back with some more from Mason Musso in just a moment.
I couldn't give anything a higher endorsement.
I would be remiss had I not include Cardio Miracle on my very short list of secrets.
It's the real deal. It's a real product. It's not another supplement.
I'm operating about 6 to 8 hours, and I've noticed that being on this Cardio Miracle has made a huge difference.
Since I started taking Cardio Miracle, about 8 months into it, the benefits have been fantastic.
You know, if I get hungry, then I just have a Cardio Miracle.
Not only is it safe, but it's necessary to take Cardio Miracle to stay well.
This let me sleep. It's showing up more energy, more get up and go. And it's all because of what this company does.
For me as a doctor, Cardio Miracle is a staple.
Cardio Miracle to me is hope in a glass.
To try Cardio Miracle for yourself and get a special fan discount, go to the host page right now and click the link for Cardio Miracle.
Think you need a new roof? Think again. Roofs aren't made like they used to be. They have significantly less asphalt in them than they did 20 years ago. That's causing roofs to wear out way before they should. Roof Max can extend the life of your roof for at least 5 and up to 15 years, guaranteed. 9 out of 10 roofs qualify. Restore your roof at a fraction of the cost for a new roof. Mention Patriot TV and get their $859 roof tune-up for free. Call 1-800-ROOF-MAX. Great to have you on the show here, Mason. Welcome back. So let's dive into your music a little bit more. Tell me about Social Order. Just what is the band? What do y'all hope to, put out there into the world with as far as your music goes?
Social Order started as like a side project I started kind of during the pandemic. It was kind of like right when the pandemic hit. It was a collection of a lot of different band members whose, all of our tours fell through, obviously because the world shut down. And so we decided to start a new project around 2020. And then we've been writing a bunch. We've been releasing a bunch of songs. We're about to do like a little tour in NorCal with this band French Police. They're kind of in this kind of alternative, kind of goth, punk, post-punk scene kind of thing. And then we're playing this festival called Cruel World, May 17th over here in Pasadena. And that's put on by Golden Voice, the same people that put on Coachella. So it's like our first big festival.
That's awesome. So I want to touch on a couple things here. So first of all, you mentioned Coachella, so you can't say that in front of me without me coming, saying something about it. So what do you think about? And I want to say a couple things here. I know you probably know where I'm going. You're like, oh God, Chloe, here we go again. So I just think, so Coachella, there's some good that comes out of it, and there's a lot of trash. And I don't mean trash by the genre. I mean trash by Lady Gaga performing some sort of absurd satanic looking ritual, or you've got Doja Cat flapping around the mud last year singing God knows what. And it's like, at what point do we look at the impact that's having on our society and on our culture and say, you know what, let's put out festivals just like this, but that have music of all genres, which, by the way, I've mentioned, I think, a few times how, I was more classical jazz focused as a kid growing up. Those are still my favorite genres ever, and the country's like a close third for me. But I've grown to appreciate different genres of music, like rock and roll and, more like punk rock. And then you have stuff like, then you do have like, your Christian gospel. There's so many aspects of music. I think it's a beautiful thing because it reaches so many different people in so many different parts of their lives. You have so many people who are just, America is this is a melting pot. It's made up of all different kinds of people, and that's just kind of, a beautiful thing about our country. And I think a beautiful thing about our music too is that there's so many different genres that represent all aspects of American life, and you're not going to run out of genres. There's going to be something there for everyone, like literally always. And I think that places like Coachella are kind of like that center of here are all these genres, here's all this music, which honestly there's not a great representation of like say jazz or whatever there, but that's, I digress. With that said though, it is in a sense it's this massive festival. People come together, listen to music. And there's a lot of stuff going on there that I completely disagree with. I think, you have Bernie Sanders on stage, shows up to tell you about, oh, you're, this should be free, that should be free, we should give it all to you. And then, we'll somehow end up with all the money in the end. All the socialism.
Except for your Coachella ticket. Except for your Coachella
exactly.
ticket.
That's still you're still gonna take out a loan for that one. That one's still the price is not coming down. But with that said, there's the potential, maybe this is just me with hopeful thinking. There's a potential, I think, to create something very similar, but that has music that isn't inherently either destructive. We've seen it, or that isn't just, you're taking out your loan to come over here and get absolutely wasted and just, watch people scream at you with giant lights. There's got to be something more to the art form and more to the concept than that. So what do you think can be done? What would a perfect Coachella in your world look like, I guess, to put it that way?
I think I think I might. I'm gonna say I don't know if you're gonna like my answer to this, because I think those kind of spaces are those kind of spaces. Now, kind of the more conservative, right-leaning, spaces are country music is basically controlled, by the right. So any kind of big country festival or anything, you're going to see American flags. You're going to see tons of patriotism. Definitely, maybe a prayer. You're going to see more of the right leaning kind of things. But in those secular spaces, such as Coachella and those, and stuff like that, you're not. And I just, I wish it was different, because I think especially within, like, the right, there's a lot more room than just country music. And I think the right is, obviously, obsessed with country, and they have, it works in in that realm. But fortunately or unfortunately, however way you want to look at it, within those more, pop, um, mainstream kind of spaces, I mean, it's just not. It's more geared towards the left. Um, I think because with conservatism, we like traditional things. We like things from our past. We appreciate our uh, you know our history and stuff like that. And then with the left, they're more all about progress. So anything new, any anyone who's trying to step out of the box and do something weird, they're all about that. And you know um, I'm not saying that the right, obviously the right is conservative, but maybe instead of just this focus on and I don't know how it would be done, but this focus on just country music, which I love country music. I'm a big fan of country music. um I think there's other genres that the right could be a part of, possibly. And that's just how I see it. So
Well, and you say I wouldn't like that answer, and and I think you know me well that I'm very traditional myself. I see all, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, but I appreciate your answer though, and I do agree with it on a lot of ways actually, because and for one, I'm not one to say, oh, Coachella should be shut down and illegal and can't happen. It is
Mhm.
America. If you want to get together and do that and spend, your time and money on something like that, that's, I mean, more power to you. That is, what America is about in a way. You can do
Mhm.
what you want if, within certain boundaries, of course. But I think that,
Yes.
generally speaking, you're free to do that. And, and I or Donald Trump or whoever, whatever conservative in the movement is not to tell you that illegally or legally cannot do that or whatever. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't think that that's necessarily the path we need to take. However, I do think you just said something really important though, saying that the conservative right is kind of stuck on just country music. I think there's a big
Mhm.
missed opportunity there to actually incorporate more genres and more, um, I guess, lines of thought here in a way that still align with our values, but that aren't necessarily like the hardcore, American flag, white picket
Mhm.
fence. You know what I mean? I mean, that isn't
Right.
necessarily for everyone. I personally love it. I don't think it's for
Right.
everyone though. And I think that, as conservatives, we box ourselves in, not ideologically speaking, but more culturally speaking, and we don't really think about what we could do to impact, in my opinion, a vast amount of Americans by just engaging and creating, not just engaging, but creating culture of our own that is, more tailored towards these different lifestyles and different people groups and different, areas of American life. And I think that's really important. So I think that, again, I don't know the exact fix to, to the industry. I don't know exactly how to switch everything around, but I do think that just conservatives paying attention for like half a minute here to what's actually going on in our nation as far as the genres of music people actually do enjoy. Let's cater to that a little bit more and actually bring them something they can enjoy without it having to be, this is our genre, follow our genre to be in our movement. That makes sense. So I think that's
Yeah.
very, yeah, I think it's very important. So on that note, well, one thing I have to just add because it's going to bug me if I don't. Country music, unfortunately, it was controlled by the right. I feel like these days, it's the actual industry has been taken over immensely by the left, but we still have like this tiny, tiny, tiny little grasp on it, and we're holding on by a small thread. We have like Zach Top, we have Red Clay Strays are pretty awesome. We have people who are more along those lines, and they're actually holding on for us in a way, but the industry in itself is just barely letting us exist. If that makes sense. So it's a fine line to walk there. But back to what I was saying a minute ago about other genres. You and Turning Point USA, not contributor, ambassador, I believe he is, Anthony
Mhm.
Watson, who's a great guy. Y'all just did a song together, and I don't think it's out yet. So tell my audience about when it'll be out and what that song's about.
So that'll be out May 23rd, and it's called "I Love the USA." Anthony and me. I can't remember which Turning Point event I met him at, but we just clicked immediately. He's like the nicest dude ever, and his energy is just amazing. You know, he's just super positive. Where I feel like sometimes I'm not a super positive person, and so like being around someone with that, you know what I mean. So someone with that kind of energy. Anyway, we hit it off immediately. You know, he's a great dude, and we had this idea of putting out a song together. Um, Obviously, I've never done like a a super like pro American song, and it's something I really have always wanted to do. Um, and I also wanted it to be, you know, kind of in my style and Anthony's style. You know, he was definitely into you know, kind of where I saw it going. So it's more on the pop side, more on the, I guess, rock pop kind of side. It's fun, it's dancey. Yeah, it comes out May 23rd, and we're putting it out through First Class Records. Um, I think you know LJ, who he loved the song, and so he's been amazing. So again, it's not your traditional pro American song. You know, I think um, you know, sometimes people kind of get wrapped up in like, oh, I gotta say something super meaningful, and it has to be, you know, it has to hit all these check all these boxes of being like really, you know. And I don't know. For me, I just wanted it to be fun. I just wanted it to be good. I wanted it to be fun. Um, and just I love the USA, you know. So it's not attacking the left. It's not glorifying the right. It's just I love the USA. You know, very simple. And you know, I think people are going to like it. I hope they do, you know.
Well, I know it's going to be fantastic. You sent me a sample of it a few months ago, I remember, and I really liked it. I thought it was awesome. I'm actually the media director for Patriot Records, which is a subsidiary of First Class, and so I guess I should be telling you welcome aboard. Um,
Whoa.
and you know, I think LJ is an awesome guy, and I think there's a lot to be done there with First Class. I think it's going to be a really cool record label, honestly, and having someone like you and Anthony on board is super awesome, and you know, a great start off to where we're going here. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about hearing your song actually released. I think it was just a sample when I heard it, so it'll be super cool to hear that in its finished product form. There we go. And I'm super excited to hear it. So Mason, thank you again so much for coming on the show. I really had a great time discussing all this with you. So where can my audience find you?
You can find me on Instagram at the Mason Musso. Same handle on X. And yeah, the song "I Love the USA" comes out May 23rd. So
awesome. So I mean, that's something we can all agree on, right? We all love the USA. If you're still here, you should love the USA. Otherwise, maybe find another residence, if you will.
exactly.
But anyway, so thank you so much for coming on, Mason. Great to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. Please subscribe to the Classically Chloe Show on Rumble, YouTube, and Spotify. Please also follow me at classically_Chloe on Instagram and Classically Chloe on all their platforms. See you next week. God bless.